Greetings, Rotters! Welcome back to Brainrot, the podcast that takes a deep dive into the best, worst horror films of the 80s and 90s. I'm Stevie, your VHS veteran. I'd like to start this episode by giving a shout out to some of Brainrot's new patrons. What's up, and thank you to Sharon Ackland, Ashley Kurtz, Elliot Cronin, Alexander Smith, Annie J, and Jim Murray. You guys rock. They all signed up to Brainrot's Patreon page in September, and if you want to do the same, you'll get access to a back catalogue of bonus episodes with guests like Louise Blaine, Mike Munzer, Becky Dark, and also today's guest, Joshua Tonks. If you'd like to sign up and get instant access to those episodes, plus more exclusive content and merch, just head to patreon.com/Stevie's Brainrot or follow the link in the episode notes. As I mentioned, Joshua Tonks is back! On Series 1, we covered the riotous Hello Mary Lou, Prom Night 2, and once again, we've chosen a pretty fun and relatively playful film that neither of us had seen before. It's 1981's Linda Blair movie, Hell Night. Joshua, welcome back.
Hi, Stevie. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. It's good to be back.
Yeah, how have you been since the last time you were on? What news?
I've been around.
Oh, you actually have done something. I was saying that expecting like everyone else just go, oh, nothing. But of course you have. You've been to summer camp.
I did. I actually went away to summer camp. So I came back about 2 weeks ago. So I was in a lovely summer camp in Ontario, putting on the shows with the kids that don't want to do shows. It was great.
Of course, yeah. But it must be such a great setting though, being such a horror fan, to be in, and it looks like a proper 1980s
100%.
ramshackle. Yeah.
Wooden. We because of COVID, we weren't allowed to go off site this summer, but
right.
The camp has another camp across the lake that they own, which is like more run down and rustic. So that's where our days off would happen. And they have this giant barn, which is where we kept all the alcohol. We kept it there under lock and key. But because I'm head staff, obviously I have access. So there were a few of us that went in the barn, because we wanted to get away from some of the younger, more, lightweight, shall we say, staff members. And we wanted to get away from all that drama. So we went into the barn and locked ourselves in. And it's like 3 floors and it's got loads of like interconnecting rooms and stuff. And we played hide and seek in the dark.
Right. And drank alcohol.
Yeah.
Well, you knew. Well, that immediately means you are going to die in this scenario.
100%.
Yeah, you're the naughty kids.
It was amazing. So fun. It was so fun.
Yeah, I bet. Something before we start that I really want to get your thoughts on is Scream 5, or should I say Scream 2022. I'm already starting Scream bingo with you, so
brilliant. I was like, when am I going to talk about Scream? I already have Scream mentioned in my notes because this is a college matter we're talking about. When is Stevie going to bring it up? What are my thoughts about it? Well, flashing back to like 10 years ago when, Scream 4 was about to come out, I was like fully in. I was like checking like websites all the time, trying to not find spoilers, but like as much out as I could about the project.
Yeah,
and, like,
little Easter eggs or clues
Sure. This time I've done the exact opposite. I don't want to see a trailer. I don't want to know anything about it. I want to just go in and watch it. I probably want to see it by myself for the first time, just alone.
Okay.
And go with people. I'll probably see it at least twice, maybe 3 times.
Of course.
But it's a big deal. But I'm trying to distance myself.
Yeah. Well, I remember when they first sort of wrapped up filming, and nowadays everything is deliberate and everything's planned. And me thinking I'm an eagle-eyed Twitter user, I went, oh, hang on. Why is so-and-so wearing Steve's jacket from the first film? Casey's boyfriend. And then I was like, hang on, they won't have just uploaded a picture without checking if anything gives anything away. Of course they'll have known that's there. They know that people are going to talk about it. So I have no idea. I've got this massive fantasy, and it's wild, that it's going to be that generation's new nightmare, and everyone is going to be playing themselves. It's going to be Nev Campbell and Courtney Cox and David Arquette, and there's a killer. In that way that if you remade New Nightmare, it wouldn't work because it was the generation before that knew those films. I love that so much.
I think this has been a theory for a lot of people.
Really?
They're doing the whole like, you know, you've got
meta.
Nev Campbell playing themselves, like she's playing herself, and like I myself even possibly started writing a little sort of idea down like a while ago. So I think this has been a notion for a while. I don't think it's going to happen. Just from, unless they're being really cheeky, but just from like press releases, you know, we do know that like David Arquette is, you know, he's playing Dewey and Courtney Cox is playing
He should
Gale.
be dead.
Who knows? I'm fine if he dies. Sorry, everyone. I love the trio, but like as long as Gale and Sydney don't, I'm fine.
Well, in that case, I think one of the trio has got to be the killer. Like they've gone. This has been going on for what? How many years? 30 years.
Be the killer. I think
they've gone mad.
It would be a disservice if one of them was the killer. I'd be happy.
I'd love that.
I was listening to. There's a podcast called Psychoanalysis. Give them a little plug. They do sort of horror movies, but from like
that's right. Yeah.
And they were talking about Scream, and they were talking about the new one, and they were saying, wouldn't it be amazing if the opening scene was Sydney? Everyone freaks out. We think she's going to die.
I see.
It's her in her like big house and like walking around and it's all spooky, and she like maybe puts her kid to bed and her partner, they crack open a bottle of wine, and she goes and sits on the porch and looks out into the darkness. And then it's Scream 5 and
nothing happens
and she's never in
so
it again.
So again, breaking the rules, which is one of
exactly.
It's their through line, isn't it? Talking about what you do to the rules.
But she's just like living her life, like having a lovely peaceful life, completely out of the narrative. I'd live that. It'd be amazing.
That would be really great. So we are today going to be talking about it's a slasher/haunted house movie. It's a little mashup. Hell Night from 1981. Now, this was a first-time watch for both of us, wasn't it? I thought I'd seen it before, but I think I was confusing it with Happy Hell Night, which is a different film. What are your general thoughts on this one?
You know what? Really pleasantly surprised. I think I'd seen a few minutes from the opening scene before. I'd glanced at it over someone's shoulder while they were watching, but didn't tune in. Really good. Like, I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was good fun. Yeah. I thought the production values were pretty good for something that's like quite low budget. Like the direction was pretty solid. The story, I mean, I didn't care. I didn't care about a thing going on. And I kind of tuned out in a couple of moments where it was just like people talking about backstories or whatever I wasn't really interested in, but the actual sort of like beat for beat of the story is great, and everyone's really pretty.
Everyone looks amazing. I think the same. I think it's mostly great fun. I think there's quite a bit of dead air at moments, and there's a lot of sequences of people creeping around or walking around that seem to go on for an age, and I don't think it's a movie that warrants being over 90 minutes, so I think that's where they could have cut the fat.
For sure.
But as you said, it looks great, and I think one of the reasons for that is Mac Goldberg, who is the DOP, the cinematographer. He is incredible. He can make anything look amazing, and his work in horror films is top notch. If you look him up on IMDb, you go, oh my god, he did all these. He's one of those people. And also something I think that's really great is they decided to make the initiation night Hell Night as a costume party, and so
very smart.
Then it wasn't like other haunted house movies of the time where you have this gothic setting but everyone's wearing jeans and a t-shirt. Having them in period costumes really helps like magnify the spectacle of it and heighten that gothic nature.
It's like the perfect combo, isn't it? And it sort of sets it apart from sort of other slasher movies of the time, because obviously this is 1981. We're coming to the end of that real sort of first wave of slasher movies. And this one kind of gives it a bit of a twist. And it's not like a big in your face twist, but it's just a nice aesthetic change to something that we're used to.
Totally. I totally agree. Yeah. And as I say, and as you say, where it came in time, having that mix of haunted house movie with the slasher tropes, it makes it less mundane as it could be if it just stuck to one of those.
For sure.
I think.
One thing I wish that they'd have done was maybe if they are sort of harkening back to these sort of haunted house movies sort of aesthetically, I think it would have been nice if maybe the male-female dynamics in the film had been a little less traditional as well, because that's the thing that kind of drags it down as well. It's very like the women are the damsels and the guys are the heroes, and that's a little bit sort of, even in 1981, we're sort of a little bit past that. So
yeah, I completely agree with that. I will say though that the main four that we have, the main four characters, they are all fleshed out.
Yeah,
more than you normally would. But as you say, the dynamics and the gender divide there is pretty apparent. And I think Linda Blair actually, after this, it was one of the things that spurred her into going, I don't want to play a damsel anymore. I don't want to be the victim anymore. And then she went on to do, was it Mean Streets? I think, or something like after this, where she's like a badass biker bitch. What do you think of Linda Blair?
Well, she got nominated for a Razzie Award, didn't she?
For this?
I think so.
Oh, I didn't know that. Probably.
And I'm not going to lie, like I don't love her performance.
Really?
And I'm all for, sort of maybe camping
queen
it up or yeah, exactly, like a scream queen. But for me,
a queen of scream, I was going to say.
new phrase that you've just come up with. Really catchy. I think that'll stick. I think for me, it was, there's, like you say, there's lots of scenes where there's like creeping, and she's with the other dude, Jeff, and they're creeping around, and he's kind of giving it like wide eyes, like looking around. And then I look at her and she's like dead eyes.
That's what you text me in the middle of watching it. You went, I just got this message saying Linda Blair has dead eyes. But I do know what you mean about that. But I don't know. There was something really naturalistic about her style and choices in acting that I found quite pleasant to watch. And also, I don't think she actually gets enough credit for her performance in The Exorcist. I think the reason for that is because for half of it, her voice is obviously dubbed. And so I think people disconnect the two. Like, it's not her performance because it's not her voice. But actually, at the age she was, I do think I think she was nominated for an Oscar for it, wasn't she? So
from one extreme to another.
Yes. So yeah, it's her horror career is quite varied.
A little patchy, isn't it? I mean, I don't dislike it, but I think, you see her in The Exorcist and it's incredible, and then you see her here, and obviously the material isn't as good, but it's just not as energized. Though apparently the shoot was really grueling, so maybe she was sort of just trying to maintain her energy, because it's a lot for the four of them to do,
Yeah, I think I read something about that. Something about like 5 a.m. start and 11 p.m. finish.
Yeah.
Like, that's illegal for one. Because when you finish, you have to be back in 6 hours. It's like, wait,
right?
There are meals and sleeps that need to happen.
Yeah,
in that
people
time.
need to go to the bathroom and like wash. Like,
right.
Come on.
And the whole shoot was so gothic and indoors and unnatural lighting. Not unnatural, what do I mean? What's the other word? What means fake?
I don't know.
Artificial.
There we go. Good. I'm glad you found it, because I was nowhere near.
There we go. Artificial lighting. And then the scenes that they did have outside were all night shoots, because it had to be dark. And the makeup artist on the shoots said that she actually had to change their foundation base color towards the 30 days in, because none of them had seen light for so long that their skin tone changed.
They're pale.
Isn't that mental?
That is so interesting. Oh, I love that.
I know, it's a lovely tidbit, but
yeah,
I mean, but it also does sound like that's crazy working schedule.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I wouldn't fare well, for sure.
No, I'd want to be outside.
And this is the thing, and I'm sure it's shit like this, especially from the 80s, where people get bad reputations because, they won't put up with something and go, oh, be cranky the next day. It's like, no shit, she's cranky. You can call her a bitch, but no shit.
Yeah. Like, I was working for well over 12 hours in some grotty, horrible place. Like, hello, my skin is translucent now. Like, I think I'm allowed to be a little bit testy.
Yeah, I'm sure that has something to do with it. Just the working
conditions
back then. So yeah, let's talk through it a little bit. So can I have your little synopsis?
Yeah, for sure. Okay,
here
we go. Right. College fraternity Alpha Sigma Rho prepare to initiate 4 new pledges. dead behind the eyes, good girl Marty.
Come on.
Less dead behind the eyes, kind of cute, kind of pointless white knight Jeff. Fun-loving, oh, she's actually British party girl / surfer enthusiast, Denise. Denise. Anyway, and please invite me to prom, never wear a shirt, father my children, Californian himbo, sweetheart West. No, Seth.
Nice.
As part of their initiation, the 4 pledges, I've just looked and I've put as part of their ignition.
As part of their ignition. This is the remix of Ignition.
Right? So as part of their initiation, the 4 pledges must spend the night in the spooky Garth Manor. You know, the giant Gothic mansion round the corner with a murderous family history. That Garth Manor. As the night presses on, Marty, Jeff, Denise, and Seth, soon realize that the legend of the missing Garth son, Andrew, might be more than just a story, and that things that go bump in the night might be more deadly than innocent pranks. Will they make it out alive? Will Seth put on a shirt? I hope not. And what will become of Denise's tiny radio?
What the fuck is that?
Pray for day, because tonight is gonna be hell. Night.
That's so, Josh, I swear to God, you could do a podcast where it's just you doing like fun synopsis to films, especially bad films. That was brilliant.
People need to hire me.
I mean, you highlighted all the main things I really want to talk about and can't wait till we get to them.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I just love a killer called Andrew. Like, oh, you know, Jason, Michael, Andrew
Garth.
Andrew Garth. He sounds like the boy eating his own snot in the corner of class.
Right?
Andrew Garth's doing it again, miss. Oh my gosh, it's brilliant.
It's not that terrifying, is it really?
No. So this initiation costume party, it looks like a heap of fun, I must say, because that is, I think you're the same as me. We love that kind of Americana, that sort of frat life, but fun, not the rough sort of.
I think I've said it before in one of your previous episodes, but it's that classic example of like 80s slasher movies giving us characters that are nice. Like, even, is it Peter, the dude that's...
Yeah, Peter Bennett.
Peter Bennett, that's sort of like, he's the frat king, like
president,
president, there we go, king.
The frat king.
Frat king. He's the one that's sort of like running it all, and he could be a bit of a dick, but actually, like, he just seems quite excited about like playing all these like cute pranks on his friends, like, you know.
Yeah, exactly. He's not making them do horrific things. No. But yeah, so he's initiating these 4 new pledges. The initiation is they have to spend one night in Garth Manor, which, as you says, has an horrific history. Now, when they get there, as you say, which is just around the corner, they get to the gate of Garth Manor. So to gain access through the gate, Peter shoots the padlock off the gate.
He does with a gun, like
oh yes, with a revolver. But then does he use the same padlock to then lock it up 2 minutes later? I think he does.
Like, maybe he was prepared and had one in his pocket ready to go.
Which, okay, and I thought you might say that. But if he did do that, and the big key, but say this, remember, he does this every year to the new pledges. So if he has to shoot it off every year and use a new padlock, then he's got the key from last year for this one.
Wait a second, though. Wait a second. Doesn't the gun have blanks in it? So maybe it's all maybe it's a trick. Maybe it's like one of his, because they're pretty good with their impressive...
Is that the same gun that he gives them?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it is. He hands it to him through the gate.
Okay. All right.
So maybe it's a trick. Because he's playing pranks with like they're quite technical. Like he's got like a sound system set up, and he's got, so maybe they just did like a
all right. I'll give him that. Yeah.
Still ridiculous though. Like
but,
what? For the 3 people in front of the crowd that can like see that moment happen.
Yes.
Like
so stupid.
What's going on?
We get then the mythology, and they explain it to us, and this goes on for a long time. I was taking notes thinking it's all going to be important, and it turns out not that much of it is.
None of it.
But it goes on, and basically the story is Raymond Garth, who and this house had been in his family for centuries probably, he killed his family and then himself 12 years ago because he had 4 kids who were born deformed or mute or with various disabilities.
Yeah.
And they were Morris, Suzanne, Margaret, and Andrew. But Andrew was never found, and he's still believed to be living in the house.
And that that exposition takes. I'm glad you were taking notes, because I was like on my phone, like completely. I was like, this isn't going to matter. I don't care.
Right.
But it goes on for ages, and it's Peter just does it in one long monologue as he's like bringing them up to the house.
It's his annual speech, obviously.
Yeah, he's obviously practiced that. But I mean, it's probably my least favorite part of the film is you've kind of got to have it to get into it, and it's full of like, problems of the time as well. It's a little bit like, oh, okay, we're just...
And the words they're using to describe
aren't very pleasant.
Yeah.
But once you get past that, you kind of like, okay, cool. We're like into the house, because it starts straight away. We don't have like a getting to know you scene. It's boom. It's the middle of the initiation, and we're going straight in.
Yeah, and as soon as they get inside, there's an abundance of candles that are lit everywhere because the place doesn't have electricity. So it's clear that Peter has been inside and set up the place for them by lighting hundreds of candles. So again, begs the question, why did he shoot the padlock off to make it look like... Because in 70 seconds, they're going to see that he's been inside and sorted it all out.
For sure.
And also, how and why do they have access to this manor? If this is happening every year, I think after like the first year, whoever still owns it, even if it's the estate agent, would be like, this has been vandalized. And by the 6th year, you'd be like, okay, it seems to be the same night every year. Why don't we maybe put a bit of security around it on this night of the year?
Yeah, anyway, the police do have somewhat of an involvement in the film and sort of not believing them and like getting annoyed with all their pranks and stuff. So surely they would have like shut this down like years ago.
Right. Yes. But yeah, so Seth and Denise, right? Please explain this. I felt like something was cut here because they're in the bedroom and they don't know each other, but they're both in their underwear suddenly.
Yeah.
She's in full lingerie and suspenders, and he's in his boxers. So he sort of goes over to her and tries it on a bit, and she goes, "Oh, is that all you're after? Sex?" And I was like, I want to know. If that's off the cards, I'd like to know the situation that led to these two strangers undressing down to their underwear. What happened before they started?
There's the moment where they kind of like run upstairs, because Denise's character, she's delightfully British. I really liked it. It's actually just, you hear it and you're like, oh, I like you immediately.
Yeah.
But she
feels like home.
Yeah, it does. And she's very fun loving, isn't she?
Yeah.
All she kind of wants to do is have sex. Like, I think she wants to like hook up with Peter, and she's like, he's going to frisk me and all of that. And she's like, oh, go for it. 'Cause she's got like secret like alcohol in her.
That's right.
All of that.
Just like you.
Just like me. Could you imagine? I would have got booted, kicked out, be done. I'm very well behaved. Except when I sneak into the bar.
The barn full of alcohol. Yeah, I know.
So yeah, no, she's really likable, but she does come across as the character that would 100% go up and have sex with Seth, and why not? He's unbelievably dreamy. But the thing I found interesting was almost the flip. Like, she's really, really sort of not led him on. Like, they've both been sort of very kind of clear about what they want to do.
Bit rampant. Yeah.
Yeah. And then she's like, wait a second, let's talk. And he kind of gets annoyed about it. And I'm like, rightfully so. And then he has to like, you have that really cute scene where he like explains like surfing to her because he's like a California surfer. But it's so
and he uses her as a board.
He does. And it's full of innuendo with his like 18 inches and all of that. It's hilarious.
Yeah, no, it's cute. That's the thing. There's a massive difference as well between these two, when there's a lot of time when we see the two couples just on their own chatting, getting to know each other. This is always fun and silly and a bit sexy. But with Marty and Jeff, it's so boring. She starts going on about, oh, my dad did this and blah, blah, blah. And oh God, it's so snory.
I'm not going to lie. I couldn't tell you a thing that they spoke about. I switched off every single scene. And I think that's probably the problem. Like, Linda Blair doesn't have anything to work with here. And she's very much stuck being like, the boring lead character that has to be innocent and pure and good and can have no personality because that's who survives at the end.
Yes.
But I think the biggest flaw is keeping Jeff alive for so long with her, because
as the hero,
it like stunts her character growth. Not that she's going to have a whole heap of it, but it stunts her sort of journey as a final girl. Because for so long, she's being protected by him and like hiding at his shoulder and sort of being the damsel. I think that's the biggest flaw in the script for me, aside from like the obvious like big plot
Yeah,
issue.
yeah, yeah.
Is that, you know, he doesn't die.
Yeah, I think he makes it far too long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it would have been nice to see the girls sort of coming out on top on this one. But we see that Peter has come back to set things up with his friends Scott and May, and we get a really convenient moment when May falls down a hole outside the house, and Scott has this wonderful moment of exposition where he's like, "Oh yes, that's a vent, and it leads to the tunnels that completely cover the underside of this house, and there are vents all around the house. Sorry, you fell down that." I was like, "Okay, thanks. They're going to come back soon."
Yeah, just giving us that quick hint of like, okay, yeah, this is what we're going to get later.
Yes. And Peter, he's playing, as you say, he's a bit tech savvy because he's playing screaming sound effects throughout the house.
Yeah.
To scare the others. I think May, though, the frat girl, his friend, is possibly my favourite character, and she's only in it for, I think, total 5 minutes.
She's hardly in it, is she?
But I think she sounds like a young Jennifer Coolidge when she speaks. Honestly, she has this line, and I was like, "Oh my god!" She goes, "Yeah, great night to scare the crap out of someone." It's like, oh my god,
that is such a good impression. And she's in this like amazing outfit as well. Like, you know, the guys are kind of all dressed like princes, but she's in like this like high cut sort of like Amazonian cave woman cape bikini thing. Like, it's brilliant.
Yeah, it's like a Tina Knowles original.
It fully is.
Doesn't it look from the Survivor era?
From the Destiny's Child days, yeah, for sure. Yes. I love it. But then we get that moment. Did you find it really weird? Can I swear on the podcast?
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Fucking brilliant. It's because when Scott calls May a twat, it's like a really random word to call her, because it's a twat is very British sort of cursing, and they obviously say twat in the States, and so it made me think, is there like a British element to this film? Because you've got Suki Goodwin, who plays Denise, who's British. Like, you can tell, like, she's not putting on an accent, like that's her actual voice. And then you get that moment. I was like, is there like, what, did someone have like a fetish for the Brits, or like, what,
maybe
know, like
from what I've looked through, it seems all like the production side seems all very American.
Yeah,
maybe it's just a hot thing at the time.
Maybe. But it really jumped out at me, that moment. And it's like, all right, Scott, really aggressive in one scene.
Because that's not fun. He doesn't say it in a fun way.
No, he doesn't. And it's sort of, she's not really doing anything bad.
It jars, yeah.
Yeah.
But of course, then she gets dragged down the aforementioned vent by a decrepit hand. Now, this death is really cool. What do you think?
What, her getting dragged down?
And, well, yeah, her decapitation.
Wait.
Oh my god, have you seen a cut version?
Did I miss the decapitation?
What? Hang on.
I know that you see her head later, but do you see it get cut off?
Yes.
When?
So she's dragged down into the little area below through the vent, and then he's grabbing her head by the hair, and she's against the wall, and then it's very, 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 very quick. He gets the machete and goes bang on her neck, and you see her body start to drop, and it cuts.
That's not a decapitation,
right? Okay,
I mean, yes, it is, but like I remember seeing it, and I remember it being really quick, and I remember thinking, "Oh, I wonder if the deaths are going to be those kind like in the later Fridays where they're all like real quick cut because they had to edit out loads of gore."
Well, with that one, the director DeSimone wanted to steer away from the classic horror beheading where you see a chop coming and then you see the head rolling on the floor. And he wanted to do something where we see the body drop away, but the head stay where it is.
Nice.
And so it's a shame, but it was a super uncomfortable way to do it because she's obviously behind the wall, but she's lying flat on her front.
Yeah.
So it's not like she stood poking her head through. She's actually lying on her front and then having to crane her neck up to make it look level. And then they've built the thing. And she was there for such a long time. And it was really painful. And they had to practice really carefully
to not actually
the chopping, to not actually catch her chin and stuff. And so they did it. And it looked amazing because her eyes are sort of still blinking. And then the body just falls away out of shot. And then they were told, that's going to get you an X rating. And so you literally see maybe 1.5 seconds. It goes and it starts to drop.
Yeah.
But there isn't you can't get the footage of the original effect that was filmed. It's not even on a cutting room floor to restore.
That's such a shame. I wish people would realize that like what's happening in these films like isn't real, and it's a lot of artistry that goes into it, and to like
artistry and pain, and of course a lot didn't have the foresight that will be something called Blu-ray in 30 years. So they didn't, keep hold of that and keep it clean and restored. It's such a shame. But but I kind of like it. It almost makes it quite safe, this film. Like kids could really watch it. It feels like it could be a cute sort of annual Halloween watch.
Yeah, for sure. I think modern kids would probably get bored. You might have to talk your way through it or like fast forward through bits.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
But no, for sure, it feels very like almost very PG-13 at this point. And that's what I thought about sort of the quote unquote sex scene with Seth and Denise. Is they don't ever get out of their underwear, and they're like rolling around with each other for ages. And the implication is that they've had sex and time's passed and all of that. And there was a little part of me that was like, it's weird that they're not naked, and not that I need nudity, even though Seth,
hello,
it would have been wonderful, but no, it's fine. But like they could have been under the sheets or like something like that, and it felt so bizarre to me. And it's like you say, like it feels like quite a tame movie in a way that's quite pleasant. No one's too mean, no one's too sweary, no one's too violent, and when you do see the violence, it's so quick that you blink and you'll miss it.
Yeah. And I think that's the film leaning more into the haunted house part of that genre switch up, because you don't get boobs and you don't get that sort of sex, except in things like Night of the Demons. But I mean, in the classic gothic stuff, it's not that much about that. And I love that Seth is in his boxers for most of this film, considering he was the one outside complaining how cold it is. But you're literally not wearing anything for the rest of the film.
Peter did light all those candles, so it's probably roasting inside that man.
That's true. Now, my first major plot question that I'd like to talk to you about is Linda Blair, Marty, gets stuck in a room with a ghost.
Yes.
Discuss.
So, and they sort of try and play it off later when they show like, how it was like magnetic lock stopping the door, but like along with a lot of things in this film, I felt like things were quite technologically advanced for like college kids in 1981. Like it's I think it's meant to be a projection.
Really?
Yeah. It's not a real ghost.
But that's the thing, I came away with it going, that's still ambiguous, because there was no talk about the setup of that one, and considering all their other setups are very practical and haphazard, like sticking on a rubber mask in the mirror or having a mannequin on a noose. This one, I was like, are we meant to think this is a ghost, and actually she just got locked in the room and this bit wasn't a planned trick of theirs? I don't know.
I think if we had a finale where there was she survived, and then there's like a final kind of stinger where like the ghost returns and there's a supernatural element,
it's
that we
real,
didn't think it's real, then fine.
But like a Scooby-Doo moment, like, it was old man Marley the whole time.
But it's never ever brought up again, is it?
No,
really?
it's not.
That is really weird that happens. I just assumed that it was like, if Denise can have a really tiny radio in her bra,
we need to talk about that actually.
Then they can obviously have a projection.
Because so if anyone hasn't seen the film, it's basically like a key ring that is a quite loud radio, and I don't want to go like, this is the most ridiculous thing, in case they did exist, these tiny, I doubt it though, it's very, very small,
unless it's something that like when you could get like those like mini CDs and they played
or record players and played one song.
They played one song and that was it, and it was like on a keychain. Maybe it was something.
Maybe it's like that
perhaps, and it's just playing that one song.
Fair enough. A really good death actually is Scott on the roof.
Love
and
it.
Our killer, I'll say for now, quote unquote, grabs his face and twists his head all the way around.
It looks really good. That I wrote that down. I was like, the neck twist itself it's like Death Becomes Her good. Like it's really like,
it's so good,
rubbery and looks real, but it's so quick that it they weren't going to get.
It's so good that it's editing that, because what they did was you see the killer touching his face, so you make sure everything's real and tangible, and then the killer puts his hand on the front of his face, start to turn it. They cut very quickly. Then he changes his clothing from front to back. This is how they did it. So that his front is now facing the back of his clothes. And he turns his head from the right to the left really quickly, and they cut it so it looks like one continuous movement, and it's so effective. And they put a crack on top of it, and it
was one of the best things. It was one of the best one of those I've seen, because you see it in like, you know, fantasy shows and TV shows all the time where they do like a neck thing, and it's like it's just someone moving their neck and they put a little crack sound effect. But this, you see the rotation and it looks excellent.
It's so good. Really good. And again, technically a tame kill, because there's not much bloodshed in this. You know, it's that's, you know, clowns do that sort of shit, like, or silly sort of cracking.
Your favorites,
and twisting.
Clowns.
Oh yeah, gorgeous creatures. Yeah, so it's just super good editing that. And yeah, we get the weird bit where Denise is in the vanity looking into the mirror.
That so bit strange. Doesn't quite get. They don't quite pull that off, do they? Because it's a cute effect. There's obviously like a two-way mirror thing going on, and Peter like lights his face in a mask so that when Denise is looking in the mirror at the vanity, like her face changes to become like a monster. And then they hold on it too long so that she would quite obviously know that something's going on. But she reacts as if she's just got like bad paws or something. Like, and what does she say? Like, the
Quaaludes.
What's that?
So it was basically meth, but it was prescribed. It was a really strong, slightly hallucinogenic drug.
Sure.
So she was like dabbing that. It's like MDMA basically.
Right.
So she was saying that fucked her. Yeah,
just
it didn't land
well over my head. And I was like, oh, okay, that didn't quite work. Maybe it worked in 1981. I don't know.
But also the timing of it, because remember, she's asleep and then she wakes up and she gets disturbed. So she wakes up and goes for a potter, looks around, and happens to find herself at that vanity at the exact point when Scott decides to do the trick on her. I'm like, she was asleep. The timing's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. And there's that little bit where like the snake pops out the drawer, and like, you know what it reminded me of, actually? There's a couple of moments in this that reminded me of April Fool's Day, and how I wish that there'd been more sort of like silly pranks happening throughout. So when they're in actual danger and they're like running or being chased, you know, they lock themselves into a room and then like the door falls off or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
nice. Yeah.
Things have been set up that they haven't discovered yet that, you know, might protect them and then they don't. You know, I think you know, there's a missed opportunity for some real sort of funhouse antics in this one.
I agree with that. And it's that House on Haunted Hill thing, isn't it? When the people think they're doing fake things to scare people, but then there is actually a real threat as well.
Absolutely. A classic.
Yeah. The bit where I think Peter's found Scott's body hanging, but then he gets chased by our killer and he finds himself in a hedge maze, it's meant to be. And they actually made this proper hedge maze.
Yeah, I read
but you never really get to see it.
No.
Because they didn't do an aerial shot of it. So you don't get the full effect. It seems like a waste.
Yeah, and I wonder if they were inspired by The Shining. Because it does feel like, I don't know, it just reminded me of that, like having the, you know, running through the hedge maze kind of vibe, and this is a year after. So maybe they'd sort of seen or heard or read.
Maybe, but it doesn't have the same tension, does it? And really this is one of the moments I mean by a lot of sort of walking around or wandering and turning corners, and it goes on without that tension. You just get quite bored.
And they do a lot of repetition as well, because you have Jeff walks around and sneaks around the hedge maze and finds Peter's body, but doesn't get the key, which allows them to get out. And then Marty does the same thing later on, and it's a little bit like, okay, and then
when they're in the tunnels later on as well, it's the same, just turning corners and walking around.
Which apparently with the tunnels, they only had like 2 corridors, and so they just shot it from different angles as many times as they could.
Of course they
make
did.
It look
That's why it looks really boring as well, because they're literally walking down the same tunnel for 10 minutes. Great.
Absolutely.
That makes a lot of sense. But we do get our first sort of glimpse at the killer's face now, before he kills Peter. And it's very Jason Voorhees with mask off, you know, the sort of misshapen face and 2 or 3 teeth only.
Yeah.
He kills him with a sickle. We might as well talk about...
Where did he get that?
Yeah, don't know.
This isn't like a farmhouse. Like, it's like a gothic mansion. Like,
and then, exactly. The tools. And he also then he takes Denise from the bed, because as you said, they've just had sex or he's gone to clean up and then he's going to have sex.
Yeah.
But I do like the shot where our killer from behind, we see him sort of looming over the bed because he's huge.
Yeah, he's big. And when
really
you see him
scary.
in corridors and you see him backlit, like it's quite scary. And I think more of that would have been really good, actually. You get lots of hands in this, and it's nice it would have been nice to have some like big silhouettes and stuff. And I think when you see May's head in the bed, first of all, I was really confused because I thought it was Denise's head, and then they're all looking for Denise, and I'm like, guys, she's right. She's right there. She's in the bed. Like, go back and look. Denise is in the bed, and they're like, "Where's Denise? There's some random girl." And it's like the girl that she was at the party with you earlier. Right. I mean, I know you're all like new students, so maybe you don't know each other yet. Yes. But I was fully confused for a minute at that moment and was like, oh wait, it's that other girl. It's May in the bed. Yeah. But that looks really good as well, the way they pull off that sort of just head in the bed.
Yeah, clearly she just threw a hole in the bed, but they've made it look really good, like it is detached. Yeah.
Looks great.
And oh yes, another thing that I got very confused about. So this is the bit where Seth, Marty, and Jeff, they get down to the gate. They're trying to escape, and Seth's trying to climb over the iron bar gate and is struggling. And Jeff says, "It's your boots. You'll never make it over there with your boots on." So he takes off his leather boots and climbs with his socks instead. Now, in my experience, leather is better at gripping than socks. I mean, socks are fucking deadly.
Slippy.
I nearly break my neck walking in
just
socks
on the day to day
every time. Yes, this logic baffled me, but it works. I mean, even if he'd taken the socks off, I'd understand because the skin, the feet grip more. But it's like, oh, I know what it is. It's your leather boots or like suede or whatever they are.
That feels like something that like maybe seemed really smart in the script, or like they needed something, like, because they talk up the gate being so high and dangerous at the beginning that no one could possibly climb it, and then Seth does and gets over it. That being said, I did, because of that, find the sequence quite tense. I was genuinely thinking Seth was going to slip, or the killer was going to pop out and knock him and he'd get impaled or whatever.
Yeah, they really set up when his face is going over those spikes on the top. You're like, I know what's about to happen. I know what's about to happen. And actually, it worked. They got me because it didn't.
It doesn't, and he gets over, and I was thrilled because he's probably my favorite character in it. Not because he's really pretty, kind of because he's really pretty, but also he's like really nice, really proactive, really interesting to sort of watch as a character.
I agree,
and it was interesting choice to actually have him escape and go away and have a little subplot for a bit where he's off, sort of
leave the action. Yeah, that's right. But speaking of that, so when he gets to the police station, I have issues with this police station. So they don't believe him when he's reporting several murders. And I mean, I don't have a law degree, but I'm pretty sure they have to investigate such a claim.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that they basically turn to get lost.
He's also bleeding.
Yeah,
he's obviously visibly wounded.
Shit has happened. And then Seth walks past an unoccupied room that has an abundance of guns laid on a table, and not even pistols. There's like rifles and packets of bullets. This police station is a hot mess.
America,
guns lying around, disbelieving cops. Lovely. Why would there? I just couldn't get my head around. Why would there ever be a reason for lining up like 8 guns on a table and leaving the room? What's happening?
In this day and age, with all that we know, I wouldn't be surprised. And it's really funny going back and watching films with all the bumbling cops that I used to roll my eyes at in every Wes Craven movie, being like, oh God, this is so tedious.
Eating
like cops in real life aren't like this, aren't they though?
Yeah.
So I don't know.
It's come to light, hasn't it?
But it is ridiculous. It's like just this, like, it's not even a room that has like a lock or
it's not an armory.
It's like a conference room with a big old open window that you can like crawl out of with a loaded rifle, as you do. Ridiculous.
Fine, but it blew my mind. The logic of this, it was the whole logic from here on out.
How that would make it through, like, the writing process, drafting process, edit process, filming. Like, no one would bring that up and think maybe there's a better way. Maybe he could
to get
maybe there's just a different scene we could do, and maybe we wouldn't need like 20 extras in this police office. Like maybe we don't need all of these. Maybe it could just be one simple scene.
Police station.
Yeah. And it's not played for laughs really either. It's just sort of played like an action scene.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it just blew my mind that. We get the bit where Marty and Jeff, they're just constantly just like talking in hushed voices,
lying down
having conversation.
The whole movie.
Yeah, they're chilling.
They're just chill. Like Seth's gone, and then they take an age to like sneak back up to the manor.
Yeah,
and then they just go in and they go upstairs and just chill.
Yeah,
like no big deal.
But this bit when the sheet rises behind
really
them, I quite like that.
Yeah, it was very Halloween. I like that a lot, and it's a great reveal of like when he sort of like stabs him
with a pitchfork.
With the pitchfork,
which I love
again because this manor is very farm.
Yeah, apparently
like, pitchforks and scythes. Like, what are you? What are you?
It's not Children of the Corn.
Where's the corn? Like, what's going on? But you think he's going to be under the blanket, and I was thinking, oh, we're going to see a body, and the body's going to.
It's going to be Denise, I thought.
Oh yeah, it was going to be Denise, or it's going to be Seth or someone, and then it's not. It's a hole, and he's gone down, and they go down into sort of like the labyrinth underneath, which is really cool. I stand this. I really get freaked out by films in old tunnels and stuff like that, like Catacombs or As Above, So Below, those sort of things. It gets me. I think even that terrible Exorcist prequel, The Beginning, I think there's a whole section in tunnels and they do it in Disturbia as well. Do you remember that one?
Yes, absolutely. Borderlands, anything like that. It's just all. Yeah. I like this, and this is where the film does sort of turn, and it does have a different vibe, I think, because we get the big chase when we've got the killer guy, and they found Denise, and she's propped up at the table. It's very Texas Chainsaw Massacre, dead family, and this is when I was asking myself, though, if this whole initiation happens every year, are the Goths? Do they just let the pledges fuck around? Have they let them do it for 12 years, but this year they've just decided they've had enough?
I mean, at this point, I'm not overthinking it. I was just along for the ride. I mean, any slasher movie that's like, we do this every year, I mean, it never makes any sense because Peter, sort of the head of would only have been head of the fraternity for one semester. Like,
true.
And yet it's his favorite thing to do every year. Like, how long has he been running it? You only go to college for 4 years. Like, so how are you just like not leaving so you can do Hell Night? Like, so much of it just sort of doesn't make sense, and you just have to kind of like take it with a pinch of salt.
True.
But yeah, the Goths and their sort of role in the film, you don't need it. It might as well have just been like you heard on the radio that like there'd been like 2 escaped serial killers. That's all you need for this film. You can have the Goth story and then it not be them, but like it's sort of implied that it is.
Yeah, well, this is the thing. Speaking of the Goth, so we get Seth finds a really convenient hole in the gate that nobody else had noticed and sneaks in, and has a tussle and shoots the killer, which we believe is this one person that's been going around. And so that's the one we've seen the flash of, the sort of Jason Voorhees looking one, and he shoots him in the pond, and you can see his wetsuit that he's got under his costume to keep him warm and stop him shivering. Then indoors, someone grabs Seth, and we realise, and I immediately thought, oh, he's not dead, maybe he's superhuman, he survived the bullets. But we see that it is another Garth, a different one. So doing my research, I found out that apparently the first one was Marty, who is the slightly misshapen one. And then this one...
Are you sure it's Marty? Because Marty's the name of the girl.
Didn't mean that.
Morris. Morris, there we go.
it was Linda Blair the whole time.
Linda Blair was the killer the whole time. That's why she was so tired on set.
Yes, so it's the son Morris, who is the first son. And the second person running around killing is Andrew, the one they thought was alive. The only thing, I think they either should have gone all the way or not at all. I feel like if you're going to have another one survive that we thought was dead, have all 4 of the kids alive. So you got the 2 scary girls and the 2 scary boys, and they have to defeat all 4 of them through the night.
But it parallels the 4 kids that you've got there as well. You get one of each, which would work quite nicely.
But to spring that suddenly actually another one of them is alive, one of the boys, I just think it doesn't commit enough in some weird way.
Yeah. And because I was watching it and I was like, this is due a remake for sure. But you can guarantee, like, I was thinking about all the remakes that happened in the mid 2000s, and if this was remade in the mid 2000s, one of those 4 kids, that, you know, the actual college kids, one of them would be like a family member of the Garth.
A Garth.
They'd be a Garth. That would fully be that.
A long generational Garth thing.
For sure. And you'd get a full backstory where it would be like, you know, the 4 kids, you know, they never died, but they in fact were the ones that killed their father and all of this. Like It would be like a whole thing. There'd be flashbacks, you know, it would just be ridiculous. So maybe it's a blessing that we haven't had it.
That, or they'd go the other way, which is all these terrible things are happening. It's terrifying, terrifying, terrifying. And then Linda Blair's character, Marty, she manages to kill one of the killers. And then everyone gets up and it had all been a joke, but she's actually killed someone now.
Yeah. They'd go they'd make it heavy.
Hey, it was just a joke. No, this whole thing's been a plan. But she's actually killed one of them now. And it was all meant to be a big scare for her.
That would fully be the first 20 minutes of the film. And then we'd cut ahead like a year later or like 5 years later. And then...
Yeah, nice.
Full on.
And then there's just loads of, the end is just, there's lots of chasing and Seth's been killed. They're climbing on a roof. Jeff gets thrown out a window.
Fully thrown out a window, which is hysterical to me. Like he just, after all of this white knighting the whole film, he literally just gets picked up like a rag doll and flung out the window. Brilliant.
One thing, during early in the film, one of their boring conversations when they're just walking around looking at candles and stroking walls, one of the things she manages to get in there is mentioning that she's a mechanic by trade.
Oh,
because her dad was, which is very important later because she hotwires the car.
She does, and she hotwires it, but like she doesn't do the thing in the movies where they go in and they like rip out the dash or whatever.
Yeah.
She, like fully lifts the hood mid chase.
Yes, it's great. I quite like it.
I quite liked the last chase scene, and I wish that Jeff had been killed in the moment where the carpet lifts up. And we'd have had him die there.
Yes.
And then she's on her own and gets chased through the catacombs by herself.
Mm-hmm.
the 2 corridors by herself. And then like makes it to the end. And then at the very end, there was the perfect opportunity for Seth, who gets killed off screen, to pull a Brandy. I just want him back, babe. I just want him back.
Feel like shit. Just want him back.
Feel like shit. Just want him back. Me and Seth. Perfect opportunity for him to pull a Brandy. I still know we did last summer, and be back and be like, "Hey, girl," and like they walk off into the sunset together.
Sure, limping, but alive. Fair enough. I mean, it's preposterous when she drives off, and then somehow he's on the car roof and smashes his face.
That made me jump, though. That jump got me. I was like, "That's a good jump," and I like that it all comes back around because she's driving the car and then she's like a complete knobhead and like backs it into the gate. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he like tips
and
the
makes
gate
the gate
forward.
Turn horizontally.
Yeah. And then I was thinking, oh, now she's going to drive away. But like the cliffhanger is going to be like, he's going to get out. But no, he's on the car. Made me jump. She turns around, rams him straight into the gate. I was like, actually,
impaled.
Really good.
So we did get what we were expecting, was that the top of that gate does impale someone, but not the way you expect. Yeah. And but the ending I really like, because she passes out on the horn of the car, and then suddenly it slowly transitions to day. Yeah. And the horn has run out. Like her forehead has been on that thing for hours.
No one's come.
No one has come.
Even though this mansion's around the corner from the university, no one cares.
Yes. And everyone knows that this was happening last night.
Yeah. No one's going to check and be like, hey guys, like, did it all work out? You know what? I'd have loved that if someone just showed up, like one dude, like, hey guys. Oh, fuck.
Yes. That would have been great. But it's actually really powerful. She wakes up and it's day and the horns run out. She just gets out of the car. I don't think she even looks back. Just starts walking.
But then we get the freeze frame, and I kind of laughed at the freeze frame a little bit.
It's true.
But it's a good solid ending for sure. Yeah. And I think
with no stinger.
With her, no stinger, just ends. Which I quite like. I don't always require a stinger at the end.
Yeah. Well, you say that. I normally really... I'm so contrary. When there isn't one, I'm like, should have had a stinger. And when there is one, I'm like, oh, I didn't need that.
Or I think it's because so many times there's a stinger and they don't pull it off.
Yeah, true.
You know, like Carrie works, Friday the 13th works, But
yeah, it's for no reason. And sometimes it completely undermines everything that you've been through as a viewer.
Like Elm Street.
Or it flips them. Yes, totally. It flips the mythology, or it completely makes redundant the journey of your heroine. And you're like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Or it makes you ask a load of questions that like you didn't need to ask. Like, what? Wait a second.
I just had this with Rawhead Rex in that episode. Like, they go through everything, kill this god, and then it suddenly just ends with a pumpkin patch and his head pops up going, and it's like, what? He's dead. Why would you do that?
What is this? Yeah, So sometimes you don't need it. I think I do like that there isn't one in this, but if there was one, and I don't know, I think there was a lot of options that they could have gone with the ending of this.
One of the sisters, one of the Garth sisters comes calling out, finds her dead brothers.
So many wants revenge. Like there's someone in the window, like
anything,
not quite fully impaled on the fence. Like there's loads of things that could have happened, and I think it would have been nice to have a bit of that. Just because it's quite a fun slasher. So to have sort of a fun ending would be great. They just need to cut 20 minutes out of it.
Yeah, totally. And that's easily done. I think it's really fun. I think it looks great. And as I said, it's got that watch around Halloween time. It's safe. You could watch it with younger people.
Yeah,
I mean, really young, possibly.
Because they'd probably fall asleep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's cute. It's something. It's definitely got rewatchability.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely one that I'd throw on with some friends, and we probably talk through the boring scenes, and then we'd be having pizza and beer or whatever, and like
candy corn,
and then kind of like tune in for like the bits that are fun, and that's it. Yeah,
completely agree. Cute. Well done, Hell Knight. I liked. Any closing remarks?
No, just that I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
I think it's good. I kind of want to do the films like this that I know have worked for me are ones that I'm like, it's good, but it leaves me wanting more, and it makes me want to remake. And that's when I know, because it gets me thinking, and it makes me want to talk to my friends about it after, and sort of like come up with ideas about what we could or couldn't do if we were to make it ourselves, and I find all that engagement that you can get from a horror movie super fun. And it's why I kind of like the community that it sort of creates. So it absolutely makes the film worth existing because of the chit chat you can have after.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And yeah, it feels like it's got potential to be great. And who knows? We'll see. I mean, they bloody remake everything, don't they?
Yeah.
So maybe in the future. Fantastic. Thank you for coming on again. I really enjoyed this, as always.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, it was great chatting. Thank you.
So tell the people where they can find you and what you've been up to and where they can listen to.
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Joshua Tonks. It's just my name, all one word. And this October, I can't remember the date exactly, but check out my Insta because I'm always posting things about it. There is a sort of audio play coming out called Eerie Earfuls. It's sort of like very much inspired by the sort of like spooky Disney Halloween specials that would happen back in the 50s and 60s. It's a great story. It's got a great cast. It's got a load of original songs in it. And I've listened to it. It's just a really spooky, fun time. So if you want to do something that isn't like necessarily watching a movie or a podcast, you can kind of get the best of both worlds by listening to that.
Yeah, it looks really cool. I can't wait to check that out. And where will people find that?
Yeah, it will be available on Bandcamp, which is it's sort of like a SoundCloud kind of vibe. And you obviously do pay for things. You can pre-order it, and there's some great music on there as well from other artists as well. So if you want to support sort of independent, new, upcoming artists and creatives like the guys that have done Eerie Earfuls, then check it out. It's available for pre-order now.
Fucking brilliant, mate. That's fantastic. But I'm sure I'll be seeing you soon and we'll be talking about something else.
Absolutely.
Take care, love. Toodles.
See you later. Bye.
Lovely stuff. Thanks once again to my good friend and horror buddy, Joshua Tonks. Make sure to get following him on the socials to keep abreast of all he's up to. He will be returning to Brain Rot in the near future also, so keep your ears peeled for that. On our social media, I have recently announced the lineup of films that we're going to be covering for our October schedule on Brain Rot. So if you want to check that out and get ahead of the game, on Twitter and Letterboxd, it's Stevie's Brain Rot. On Instagram and Facebook, it's Brain Rot Pod. On Facebook, you can also join the discussion group and talk to other rotters and share your favourite trash to pieces. You can email me. The address is steviesbrainrot@gmail.com. And merch. I know I keep peddling these t-shirts, but we are now sold out in some sizes, and there's just a handful left at just £13 each, so head to steviesbrainrot.com to grab one. They will be discontinued after they are gone, so it's your only chance before we have a new design. Next week, I'll be talking about the interesting 1982 slasher Death Screams. Arrow Video have recently released a new restored scan on Blu-ray, and I really recommend it. Just for the slipcase alone, it's a really beautiful design. Until we meet again, rotters, toodles!